slamming the flimsy outhouse door behind him, Dirk was furious with his wife. He rushed to loosen his belt and unzip his pants after a long night of drinking and arguing. The outhouse was chilly and damp, only used a few times over the past year. It didn't smell rank at the least bit, only musty. He turned around and plopped down on the cold toilet seat, pulling his phone out of his pocket to scroll through his social media. Startlingly, shortly after only a minor bowel movement, he felt something brush against his bare back end. A thick, bristle texture. Could it be a squirrel? Or more likely a raccoon? He realized he didn't even look down the potty before hopping onto it. And right before he was able to hop off, something hard and sharp thrashed his underside, scathing his underscrotum, pulling some skin apart and slightly exposing the organs beneath the thin, loose layer of skin, and digging into his inner thighs and buttocks. He screamed in pain and surprise and jumped off the Dark Age-style toilet. It nearly held on to him, whatever it was, pulling a bit more flesh off his underside. Not a lot, but enough to make him concerned and in need of medical attention. He pushed his body against the closed door, forgetting that he had latched it before sitting down. He fumbled to find the lock, hands shaking and heart pounding, with bits of feces running down his legs, along with warm blood beginning to thicken. Right before leaving, he thought to turn on his phone light and look beneath the seat. Through the wormhole carved in the wooden toilet seat, he saw the backside of a bear. The bear was apparently on its way out too, exiting through a tunnel it must have dug to get under the makeshift porta-potty. But it wasn't over. Not yet. The autopsy revealed that it wasn't until at least 10 minutes later that the bear began to eat Dirk's face off. What's up, guys? Iceman here. So, this story is called Outhouse Bear, and it's already seeming to be quite alluring, isn't it? But first off, I'd like to thank you guys for all your support thus far on this channel, as it has been growing exponentially. So I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button and subscribe to this page, and hit the bell so you're notified next time I post a video. And if you want to support me further, you can become a channel member or a patron. Links in the description below. And blessings to my channel members and my patrons. And before I bore you with these bearing details, let's get into this bear of a story. Dirk was an eccentric man, a swindler. He had a way with women. Wasn't bad in the looks department either. In his younger years, anyway. He would woo them with stories of his acting career, commercials he's been in, modeling gigs, magazine ads, and he'd drop names of famous actors whom he'd meet at parties, sometimes going to their homes, enjoying alcohol together and laughing. He had good facial structure, a chiseled chin with an angular jawline, and carved cheekbones, making his modeling stories all the more believable, especially when he'd pull out his cell phone and show them the old headshots. To his credit, in those days, he looked pretty good. These gags would work well for him throughout his youth, racking up his bed count, as he would like to call it, with attractive women. But the only problem was, those days were long gone. Now, he was pushing 50, and still hasn't had his big break. Dirk had a good run. He made it through life, never really needing a real job, but he couldn't run forever. In fact, running was exactly what he was doing wrong before the bear granted him a sudden and excruciating fate. Northern Wisconsin, the location of Dirk's new vacation home, is excellent black bear habitat. The normally shy animals prefer habitats with thick cover, like deciduous forests and wooded swamps. They have relatively small ranges compared to their relatives. Males keep around 27 miles between them and their nearest competitor, while females only range over an average of 8 miles. Black bears can be found across almost the entire state, but are quite abundant in the northern part. In the last few years, the population has grown to an estimated 24,000 individuals. Black bear hunting is popular. The Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources states that in 2021, 11,530 black bear permits were awarded to about 10% of applicants. The bear tags are awarded on a modified lottery system. Chances vary year to year by previous applications, management zone, and available permits. According to them, some of the country's largest black bears, some up to 600 to 700 pounds, are harvested in the state. Despite widespread bear awareness in the state of Wisconsin and the popularity of hunting and owning hunting weapons, Dirk didn't think twice about sleeping in a dilapidated cabin deep in bear country without so much as a pocket knife. There were more pressing things at home for Dirk to worry about. He was in the habit of seeking loans from his new wife. She had a good job and family money. She had been attracted to Dirk's ruggish good looks and devil-may-care attitude. Certainly not his pocketbook. Sparks flew when they were introduced at a mutual friend's wedding, and she had been happy to support what she thought was his burgeoning acting career for a while. He used the money for things like joining another actors union, flying across the country for another audition, and his biggest vice, gambling. Deep within, Dirk craved to provide, as much as his actions seemed to deny it. He still wanted to make something of himself, to impress his wife and maybe even her aging parents, like a great sum of money. Unconsciously, he was trying to prove his worth. For their relationship, the gambling addiction was a disaster. They would fight, often. Most relationships that end do so because of money, and theirs was no exception. But they wanted to work things out, and they would make up after their disagreements. One of their means of making up was getting away. Even though they had a nice house in lower Wisconsin, they embarked on a project cabin in the northern region of the state, on about 80 acres of land. And there they were, on their first night of vacation, arguing over whether or not he could borrow money from her in order to fly to New York for another commercial audition. As usual, the argument didn't go well for him, and he found himself storming out of the unfinished log cabin to let off some steam, disassociate by gazing at his phone for a bit, and sober up some from the martinis he consumed as the heated conversation with his wife escalated. Outside, under a clear night sky, Dirk stood and looked out toward the forest that lay to the north and east of the cabin. The building was situated on a rise in the loamy soil, surrounded on three sides by the northern deciduous habitat consisting of oak, maples, and pines. At ground level was an abundance of thick berry and nut-producing shrubs, and some of the edible ground covers like wintergreen and partridge berry. Not that Dirk cared about that. On his right, the landscape curved down into a low area of black spruce swamp, dominated by conifers and an open understory layer. Dirk shivered. His wife was the nature lover, not him. He wasn't quite sure why they had bought the shack in the middle of the godforsaken wilderness anyway. He stomped to the outhouse, about 20 yards from the back door of the cabin, and slammed the door shut. Knowing next to nothing about bears, Dirk certainly didn't expect the bear to come at him. Surely the bear had made a mistake when it clawed his underside. Pants around his knees, Dirk stumbled out of the outhouse into the light of a faint moon, and winced as he gingerly felt his wounds. Looking back in the direction of the outhouse, he was shocked when his eyes met another pair of eyes, looking right at him. Without buckling his belt, Dirk turned and ran. According to the analysis of the scene, it appears that the bear probably only pursued Dirk after the man turned and ran away. Black bears are known to be highly opportunistic, taking advantage of any situation where they might get something to eat. Additionally, There is some speculation that black bears are attracted to the smell of fresh blood. Some women have offered personal experiences where they believed they were being tracked by a bear while on their period. After a short pursuit, the bear brought Dirk to the ground, with little evidence that he attempted to fight back. It's estimated that Dirk may have had played dead for a grueling 5 minutes, allowing the bear to dig major gorges into his back and begin eating him. He finally flipped around and gave up his frontal after the bear began chewing on his vertebrae. Or perhaps the bear flipped him over to get at his soft belly. It is unclear exactly what happened. Dirk would have been disabled to the point where he could no longer stand up or get away by then. If he had stood his ground and fought back initially, he most likely could have gotten away. Most publications about human and black bear conflicts encourage the reader to talk loudly or act big. Raise your arms above your head and shout to scare the animal away. Never run, and never lie down and play dead. After it had begun, the bear had no reason to stop feeding, as Dirk didn't pose much of a fight at all until he was already partly consumed. Evidence suggests anyway. And at that point, it was too late. The bear ate most of Dirk's face off and cached his body only a few yards from the outhouse. His wife wondered why he didn't come back to the cabin, but she was preoccupied with their earlier argument. She admits she gave Dirk a little more time than she normally would have before becoming alarmed at his absence. When she peered out the back door of the cabin with a flashlight, she saw a large bear pacing in the backyard in the area of the outhouse. It seemed as if it couldn't make up its mind about something. Instead of going out alone to look for Dirk, she called the police. Looking back, she thinks maybe she should have checked on her husband sooner. But regardless, she was grateful that she didn't have to be the one to discover his lifeless, nearly unrecognizable body. Jeez. What do you guys think about that story? It's startling to me how many people out there don't realize the potential danger in black bears. They should be respected, and caution should be used even in black bear country. I feel like it's commonly understood just to play dead with a bear, and the problem is that doesn't work with all bears, as many of us are probably beginning to find, or as many of you, the viewers, already know. And black bears are so opportunistic that it seems they'll eat a human body if given the chance. I remember I was in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan many years ago, and I saw 3 or 4 giant black bears just hanging out outside of an ice cream shop, eating the trash out of a dumpster nearby. It seems that they just don't really care what it is. If it's edible, they'll try and eat it, including, in some cases, the helpless body of a human being. It seems that there are still a lot of people out there who think that bears are just cuddly animals that mean no harm against us. But of course, that is not always the case, as seen in this story. But let me know in the comments below what you guys think about this situation, and what do you think could have been done differently to avoid this hideous attack. Again, I'd appreciate it if you guys like this video, as it really helps my channel, and subscribe to the page, and I'll be talking to you guys soon with more chilling tales from the Iceman.